All right, hey everyone, so welcome to our Life Skills Academy program. This one is called Home Survival 101 or How to Live on Your Own. And let's begin. I'm going to talk a little bit about what makes a home great, but also mostly about the things that you're thinking about or the things you're not thinking about of why a home needs a little bit of extra work, a little bit of forethought. This is not going to be super in-depth. We're not going to have you like scrubbing toilets or anything like that, but I wanted to give you a taste of that. And why am I a person to talk about this? Well, in March, I moved into a new place, and a lot of things I'm talking about today are from my own personal experience. So, the first thing, when you move into a new home, you're going to be really excited. You're going to sit down, you're going to really be happy, and then about an hour later, you're going to start finding things wrong with the place. And that's perfectly normal, because there's no place that's perfect. No place is actually your dream home. And you may find that there's little different things you're dissatisfied in. That's normal. It's probably the biggest investment you've made in your life, except maybe buying a car or a yacht. And so be aware of that, and don't worry. Couple things that you're probably going to have to, you're going to encounter. There might be some problems with the home. So maybe there's a dent in the floor that you didn't notice before, or a stain. Maybe the toilet is in the wrong place, or like it doesn't work, or the toilet's too big or too small, or every time you walk into the kitchen you bang your shins on the countertop. Stuff like that happen. Most of the time these aren't serious problems, and my advice may not be satisfactory. It's just deal with it. You gotta learn to deal with those little things, because everything else about the house is so great. If there is a problem, you can always ask the apartment complex and find out. They might have something they can do to help. Sometimes there's problems with your neighbors. You can't pick your neighbors. Sometimes they can make the stay more pleasant, but most of the time it's going to be less pleasant. They have big parties on the weekends? Are they vacuuming at like 2 a.m.? Do they play booming techno music right before you go to bed? Which happened to me, by the way. I had a big interview. I went down, I was ready to go to bed, and I started hearing the boom, boom, boom of techno music. Sucked. Remember that the space is not just yours, it's a shared space. And especially if you're dealing with roommates or housemates and you're sharing like a house or a flat with other people, things may not be perfect and you might have to compromise. Getting along with others is important. The first thing I say is just know what your rights are and what your situations. Does the lease prevent the activity that you're complaining about? Is there like a quiet noise ordinance from 10 p.m. to 6 a.m.? Do they prevent parties on the weekends? Once you've figured that out, try to confront it, but be polite and friendly. It may feel super satisfying to be like passive aggressive, or like, I'm gonna have my dog and I'm gonna leave my dog droppings on their door every day. That's not actually gonna solve things, and it might make it worse. You know, especially if you have to escalate to the landlord, which is the next step. You want to be totally innocent. You want to be smelling like roses. You're like, no, I did nothing wrong. I was very polite. I offered them cookies. And then they started playing techno at 2 a.m. You know, so you want to be the innocent party. So that's really important, even if you want to be like me. When you're working with neighbors, but especially if you're working with roommates, it's important to set boundaries and expectations. Maybe you have a chore list that everybody agrees to, or some agreements, and get those in writing. Because if they're not, they'll be like, oh no, I thought it was just a suggestion, or I don't remember you saying that I can't bring in my life-size replica of Darth Vader. That's crap, you know. But if all else fails, document those incidents and then talk to your landlord. But the documentation is key too, because that's what the landlord will need to talk to it and resolve the problem, or maybe evict the person that's a problem. There might also be problems with the area, and I've run into that. Maybe you've got this great little cul-de-sac that's to your house, and at 6 p.m., it's a logjam, it's traffic. It takes you 30 minutes to go a half a mile to your house. Maybe there's like this great grocery store, the restaurant, and you can never get in because there's a huge line all the time, and you didn't realize that. Or, you know, it can be really frustrating. And that was like it for me. There's this great grocery store right by my house, and I can't find parking right after work. So I just basically can't go there. But you're gonna have fun. Explore the area. You're gonna find stuff, like I found this great restaurant I didn't expect to find, and I really go there all the time. You're gonna find hidden gems that might be better than the place you were before. Next thing that's important to know is that what did you forget? You've probably forgotten a bunch of stuff when you moved in the apartment. I did, and it's just part of the natural. There's a lot of moving pieces. I gave you a little bag with most of the things I thought you might need. So a big one, trash bags and trash cans. Maybe you have one trash can, but you probably need one for your bathroom. You may need one for like your bedroom or for your desk area, and those generally don't come there. You're gonna need trash bags as well, otherwise you're gonna be washing a lot of stinky cans. You'll probably need more cleaning supplies than you thought, and maybe now you've got marble countertops, so you need marble cleaning solution. Or maybe your old cleaning doesn't work anymore, so you need to get some new things. You're probably gonna need lamps and power strips. My house doesn't have any lamps in it. So I didn't realize that during the day when I was doing the inspections, but my first night, it was really dark. So that's something you might have to buy. And then finally, like places to store things. You may not have realized that your mom or your dad had bought these kitchen organizers that gave your shelf a couple extra places to put plates and cups and things like that. You also got a bunch of stuff, and maybe it all fit perfectly in your old place, but where's it going to go in the new one, especially if you have less furniture in this new place. Next thing you know is you're your own parents, which is both good and bad. I mean, the good is nobody can tell you what to do anymore, right? No one's gonna yell at you, tell you what you have to eat and things like that. But there's some downsides too. So the first one is that you're now responsible for all your health care. Going to the dentist and the eye doctor, getting physicals. If you're sick, you gotta take care of yourself. There's not necessarily anyone who can get you chicken soup. So these are things you have to plan, you have to worry about. Also, getting up in the morning. I mean, there's literally nothing stopping you from deciding, I'm not getting up today and just staying in bed all night. Other than the fact that you might get fired from your job or fail your class. But now there's no one there to keep you up or give you that responsibility. So that's something that you've got to be careful with. Stocking the fridge and the bathroom. If you think about it, all that food in your grocery at home, that came from somewhere. The fact that there's always toilet paper or paper towels, now you've got to be the one who buys that. And if it runs out, you can't be like, well, I'm too lazy to get it because there's no more toilet paper. So you're not responsible for that as well. Knowing how to fix things. If you live in an apartment, things are probably okay. There's probably a maintenance person or a landlord who will help fix major problems. If your washing machine doesn't work, your stove is broken, but little things you might have to fix by yourself, like your lamp. And even if you do have a landlord, you might find a situation where there's something that needs to get fixed now. So knowing how to fix those sort of things is really important. At the end of this, I'm going to have a handout that's got a link to a great website that shows you all about how to fix common household items. And then finally, something I like to call the crushing despair of loneliness. You're going to be by yourself. Or you might be with strangers or people that you don't know, not your family, not your best friend. And it will get lonely. And sometimes that's really depressing and really dark. You come home after a hard day and there's no one there to greet you. So there's a lot of different ways to counteract that. One of them is call your mom, call your parents. I'm sure they'd love to hear you talk. They probably love it if you called every night. And even if you think it's a pain, it's kind of a way to just feel a little bit better about yourself. What about friends? Having them over for a housewarming party or just to hang out, to play. If that's too much work, you don't have any friends, you can get a houseplant. Or if you're feeling really spendy and you want to be responsible for another life, get an animal, like a fish or a dog or a cat. Just make sure you know what the rules are in your apartment. Because that'll help. You have somebody to rely on, somebody to get you up in the morning, but then you're not responsible for your goldfish or your pet iguana or boa constrictor. Just in general, remember to reach out and maintain communication with people, because you're not going to be able to depend with just bumping into people to get your daily communication, your daily friendship needs. You'll have to make that effort yourself. We'll take a brief aside just to talk about security. You're by yourself, you're probably in an apartment with no other people, or maybe other people are out all the day. It used to be probably that your mom or your dad, your baby brother, or your dog was there the whole time. So make it less likely that you might get robbed or something like that. So it's really important, especially if you don't know the area well, to always keep your doors locked. You know? Keep your doors locked, make sure your windows are closed when you leave. Just do some basic security images. Once you get a better sense of the place, you might feel more comfortable leaving your windows open or cracked if you're on the second or third floor. But I mean, burglary is something that's happened, and you got to be careful with that. Also, be really careful about posting things on social media. I mean, this isn't just one of those like wives' tales. We've got reports of, burglars and other people who know when somebody's out of town because of things they're posting on like Twitter and social media, and they'll go in and they'll know no one's there, so they can break in their house. So maybe you want to hold off on posting on those, or make sure your privacy settings on Facebook are really tight. And then finally, I really strongly recommend having renter's insurance. Do you all know what renter's insurance is? So what is it?
I'm gonna take a guess at it. So like if you can get your stuff stolen, or like there's a burglary in your place and all your stuff is like gone, your insurance can how's it called? Replace that?
Exactly right, yeah. So renter's insurance will replace your goods in case of a theft or a fire. Normally there's very specific things that they'll cover and things that they won't. Usually they won't cover earthquakes or floods because we're California, so it's more likely to happen. And you'll generally have to pay extra if that's what you want. It's just a good thing to have peace of mind. If you do get robbed, you can be like, oh, that sucks, but I'm not out my $1,000 for that Armani suit. I've got renter's insurance, so I'll get that money back eventually.
Wait, do they replace that, or they just give you money?
Generally, they give you money worth the value of the stuff you've stolen.
Okay.
But they might have to go through an assessment process. It's not gonna be done the next day.
Okay.
Did you have a question?
Will you have to make a report of exactly what it is you've lost?
I haven't done that, but generally, with the way insurance systems like that work, is that there will be a broker or an adjuster who comes down and takes pictures and see what's going on. In the same vein, when you get renter's insurance, you have to list the things that you have and generally the property value. So if that changes, you also want to change that, which reminds me, I should probably update my own. Budgeting is the next thing, because you're going to be by yourself, so you're going to have a lot more expenses. And it's really important to make a budget. It's really important to make a budget because you may end up spending way more than you're taking in. If you don't know what you're spending in a month, you may end up in deep debt before you realize it. I mean, especially if you're not making $1 million like Bill Gates, just 1 or 2 months of wild spending and you can find yourself deep in the hole. So there's a couple recommendations I have for that. So the first thing is make a budget before you move with kind of your guesses on how much things are going to cost. How much is food, how much are rent, how much is transportation costs. And then about 2 or 3 months after you moved, look at it again and revise and be realistic. I know you said that you were only going to buy top ramen, but in reality you went out in McDonald's like every other day. So your food budget's way higher than you thought. So it's important to know what you're actually spending before you know how to control that funding. Know how much you can afford. I mean, you want to track those expenses, and the finer detail you can track it, the better. A lot of banks and credit cards will have the ability to track it online. There's also a lot of great apps. There's one for your phone called Mint, which works very well. You could also just write them down in a Google Docs spreadsheet or an Excel file or something. Remember to check your bank account to make sure that it's actually matching that and nobody's stealing your money through credit fraud. And if you want, in November, we're going to do a financial literacy workshop, so you can come back and get a little bit more detail with that. And then finally, my recommendation is to pay your bills by making a routine. You got bills that are due every week, and it sucks because you got to pay them, and you have to, and it's a lot of money. Have a routine. If you're feeling smart, you got a lot of money, the auto pay. If you don't want to do that, just say, hey, on the 12th I pay, or on the 31st of every month I pay. Try not to cut it that close, because if your bank's closed or you're in Timbuktu or something like that, then you might have to deal with late fees or fines, and that's no good. And finally, just note that there's going to be unplanned expenses. So your rent's going to go up, guaranteed. Your utilities are probably going to go up, and they're going to change. Especially as summer rolls around, you start using the AC more, it might go up. What if you forget to turn off your AC and you're on a vacation? That's going to cost a lot of money. What if you need to buy a snazzy new suit for a job interview or a date or something? That's unplanned, but you kind of need it, right? And there's probably other things that you're going to forget, like all the things we talked at the beginning. You may forget any of that stuff. So it's important to know that and have a plan. Also, when you're buying things, you probably can't just go out and buy everything that you want. So go slow. If you're buying furniture, don't buy it all at once. Think about really carefully what you need. Remember, your childhood home was filled with furniture that you accumulated literally over your lifetime. Try thinking about unconventional sources like Craigslist or dumpster diving. Obviously, you want to be careful with that. Don't neglect your walls. Sometimes just having some posters and stuff on the walls can make it a lot better. And think about like quality versus cost. It's probably better to invest in one or two really nice things that you're going to be happy with, rather than like 40 photocopied pictures of like celebrities you stick on the wall. But everybody's taste is different. And finally, the most important thing for this is to build an emergency fund. That's incredibly important. You need to have some money to fall back on if there's an emergency. If you break your leg, if you get in a car accident, if you get fired, or if you have to take a week off to care for your sick mother. You need a little bit of money for this sort of emergency. And try to build up a buffer as soon as you can with that. Maybe you have to not buy the bed you needed and you're sleeping on a mattress on the floor for a while. I don't know if that's a great thing to do, but you have to make those judgments. And if there's an emergency, you're going to be glad that you have a buffer. All right, the next step is cleaning. Cleaning your apartment is incredibly important, especially because you're the only person in there, so you're the only person who's going to be keeping it clean. You want to clean messes up every day, especially if they contain food particles. Sweeping the floor, vacuuming the carpets if you need, wiping out counters and stovetops. The more often you clean, the easier it'll be and the less time it'll take. All right, but why should you bother cleaning? I'm sure everybody kind of wants to know that, right? So here's the first thing, the smell. Especially if you've got a studio or a one-bedroom apartment, if you lit something like rot on your countertop or in your trash can, or you never clean up your clothes, that smell can fill up the place real quick, and you'll come home and it'll reek like BO. Or perhaps worse, you won't notice anything, but you invite a date over or your parents over, they're gonna run out the door holding their nose. So it's really important to control the smell. Just as important is controlling for pests and bugs. I can't tell you how gross it is to see even ants in a place. If you leave food on the floor, on the countertops, leave something open, and there's pests around, they'll find it. And once they're there, it's really hard to get rid of them, especially ants. Even killing the ants won't stop the problem because they release scent when they die. So that means they'll come back and they'll look for that place. Water damage. Water damage accumulates really easily if you don't clean it up. If you're splashing water on your wooden countertops or the floor, and that just doesn't get picked up and cleaned up right away, it can damage it. It can discolor it, it can dry it, it can make it so it's not functional anymore, or make you so you have to pay a bunch of your deposit back when you're done. So you want to be careful with that. Mold. Mold's sort of the evil cousin to water damage. So if you've got a place that's humid, that's moldy, that's not being cleaned, the mold's going to grow. And some mold is just really gross and looks unappetizing, and some mold can actually be deadly. And once mold's there, it's also incredibly hard to get rid of. So that's why you want to be careful to clean to get rid of that mold, and killing of that starts. What if your landlord needs to come in, that they need to fix a light bulb, or they need to do their final thing, their yearly inspection of the fire alarms? What if somebody needs to a show of your house off to somebody. All those things might require the landlord to come in. And if they come in and they see a dirty, trash-filled place, they're going to make the process to evict you because they don't want any of the things we just talked about. They don't want the place to be damaged, and they don't want the reputation as a place where things can be damaged. And then finally, what if you have like house guests? What if you have your significant other, your mom, or your friends? If your place is a ruin, no one's going to want to come. And if it's a ruin and they come, they're never coming back. And I guess maybe just the last thing is a clean house is a much nicer place to just be in. It looks better, it makes you feel better emotionally, and it's just worth doing just for the quality of life. Most important for that is prevention. Prevention is key. Because remember, everything you own can and will get unclean. It's an ongoing process. You're fighting the tide of entropy. The more little sessions you do, the more frequently, those will add up. If you clean your bathroom every day, you're never going to have to do a big weekly clean. If you clean your kitchen every day, you're never going to have to worry about like crazy mold or grease spots. Of course, sometimes you're still going to need to deep clean them. So I'm going to talk about a couple of the different places in here where you need to be careful and where you might want to clean. So the first is the kitchen. So with the kitchen, you want to keep clean after cooking, and if possible, when you're cooking. Don't leave things just lying around after you use them. Put the utensils and ingredients in the sink and let them soak so nothing hardens. Once they're in the sink, when it's done, either clean them by hand or dishwasher right after you use them. If you see spills on the ground, wipe them down. Make sure you're also keeping track of the things in your refrigerator and your pantry to make sure nothing in there is going bad or rotting. Even if things have like sell-by dates, sometimes they're not perfect. You know, maybe you left an apple too close to a banana, and now they're both rotting. So you want to make sure you know what's going on and get rid of that as soon as possible. Otherwise, your fridge is going to smell like rotten bananas for like a week. Dishwashers seems like they're a waste of time and money, but they actually save you a lot of trouble and they save you a lot of money. They use less water, they'll take less time, they'll get the plates cleaner that you can do by yourself. I've always been really hesitant of doing that until recently, and now I'm using the dishwasher every couple of days, and it makes my life so much better. I don't have to hand wash everything. I look down, it's like, oh, I've spent an hour and a half cleaning, and I only spent 30 minutes cooking. It's a problem. Many people tell you that when you're washing the dishes, you want to pre-wash all your plates and utensils. You don't need to do that. You want to scrape off like big chunks of food. If there's like a chicken strip on your plate, you don't want that in the dishwasher. But any dishwasher that's been made in like the last 5 or 6 years has sensors to detect how dirty the water is. And so it'll clean all that stuff off. Bathroom. That's another thing that needs some special love, right? So an important thing is to keep your bathroom dry. You want to keep your bathroom dry to prevent mold and water damage. If you have a fan, you want to turn that on after your shower and let it run for a while. Wipe down your tiles, wipe down the floor, wipe down the sides. Make sure you hang towels so they dry, don't just leave them on the floor. That's going to help with both the smell of the place and also help keep it clean and looking more neat and orderly. If you've got bath mats and they're soaking, make sure you either hang them up or you wash them regularly so mold doesn't develop in there as well. It's really important for most of the things in the bathroom to spray and stand. So what do I mean by that? You have your disinfectant, right? You spray it on what you're cleaning and you let it sit for a couple minutes. Most of them have directions on the back. Let it sit 5-10 minutes. You want to do that because it takes some while for the chemicals in there to break down the mold and the grease and the dirt and all the mildew and all of that. So maybe plan around that. First you spray everything down, then you go do something else, and then you all wipe it down, which is your next step. Make sure you're covering everything, you're wiping everything down, especially the harsher chemicals and cleaners, and even some things like magic erasers. They can damage or discolor the tiles that you're doing if you're not careful when you're wiping them down. Of course, the toilet. That's the next thing that you have to worry about, right? Kind of the worst thing about cleaning the bathroom, in my opinion. Well, the first thing to know is you need to take your time when you're cleaning it. Don't just do kind of a quick job, because you're going to miss the parts that are going to grow and be gross, and then you have to clean it. That part is going to be even worse. So just be careful, take your time when you're cleaning with that. Use some sort of disinfectant and brush. I use like disposable wands and brushes to clean with those, but they also make ones that are reusable that are perfectly fine. Use those because you can't get all the nooks and crannies like a brush can. And then finally, this is a little bit more for the guys than for the ladies in the audience. Sometimes accidents can happen. Sometimes there's aiming issues or leaks. Know about them. You may have to consider getting a mat for your toilet area or another solution, and you're just going to have to clean more frequently. They tell us to be careful with that, and we can be, but there's no 100% guarantee. So just know that. If you leave, urine on the floor, it can cause problems. It can calcify, it can stain or discolor. So you're just going to have to make sure that it's wiped up more cleanly, or you got something else catching it. That's just me being real here. All right, next thing you might have to do is clean your laundry. Gotta wash your laundry regularly. Anyone see Big Hero 6?
Yeah.
You know how the guys you wash your underwear on the back and then front and inside out and back and front? That is not real advice. Don't do that. You need to wash your clothes regularly. Make sure your clothes aren't piling up. Dirty clothes just feels gross. Hopefully your apartment or your apartment complex or your actual apartment has a washing and dryer machine. If so, great. If not, you may need to go to a laundromat. So, laundromats are generally a little expensive. You probably have to stock up on quarters or other things to do that. Make sure you might have to bring your own solution, a bit of a drive, so it's a little bit of a pain. You might also be fortunate enough to have one in your house or know somebody who does who can do that. But in worst case scenario, if you don't live too far from your parents, go visit your mom. You say, hey mom, I'm just here to see you because I miss you so much and I care about you. And by the way, here's all my laundry. Oftentimes parents, when you move out, especially in the first year or so, they really miss you. And it can be a good technique and also help with the loneliness issue. Separate by color. You want to separate by color and also kind of by delicacy. The reason is that especially new clothing, the dye isn't always set in that clothing and it can wash out, especially if you're using hot water or a really rough cycle. So say you got your favorite 49ers jersey and your white t-shirt, and when you come out of the washing machine, you have a pink 49ers jersey and a pink t-shirt. That sucks. You definitely want to separate by color. You also probably want to separate light colors and dark colors if you have enough laundry for that. Also, you want to think about what you're washing. Underwear and socks and stuff can probably be washed at a higher temperature, larger loads. If you've got vintage t-shirts or nice dresses or things that are delicate, you probably are going to need to wash that in a different cycle, in a delicate cycle. And on that note, it's important to check the labels. So labels on pretty much everything you own are going to tell you how to clean it. So they'll tell you whether you can wash it, whether you should use bleach or not, whether you should iron it or tumble dry it or use high heat or low heat. There's generally dots and symbols on the front. You can check the internet for more specific details for what each of those means, but generally it's written in text as well. Final aspect of cleaning is your trash. Take it out regularly. No, seriously. You need to take your trash out all the time. Not necessarily just when it gets full. After a couple days, it's going to start to smell. It's going to collect, it's going to start smelling more and more and attract more animals and roaches and things like that if you don't take it out. Be careful with that. Make sure you know what you're doing. Don't be lazy about this because you're going to regret it. When you come home, your whole house smells like a rotten banana. Because like we said, smells stay in a small complex for a long time. So you might be smelling bananas for like a week or two, even after that's open. Okay, so now that you're by yourself, you're probably cooking. Or at least you want to cook, right? Your goal is like, I'm going to cook every day. I'm going to cook all 7 meals, or 7 meals a week, or 14 meals a week, or everything. Probably not going to happen. But cooking is actually really easy. And there's a lot of sources and science for the things you can do. So honestly, my advice is to find recipes online. There's tons of different websites about anything else. You want to find a secret recipe for Chick-fil-A sandwiches, there's a site that's got that. Or Taco Bell's taco seasoning, there's a site for that. But another great source is your parents. Your mom would probably love to share her signature tortillas or her handmade meatloaf or her borscht that's been handed down through 14 generations to you. And sometimes those are nice because it's like that taste of home, so you won't get as lonely or homesick. There's also tons of like celebrity websites, cooking shows. Alton Brown is one of my favorite people because his recipes also tells you why it works, the science behind that, and that kind of helps you become a better chef. And of course, if you need extra help, the public library has tons of cookbooks and recipes for anything you want. You can always come in here and we'll get you what you need. Yes?
There's a really cool website called Supercook. You can put in whatever ingredients you have, and it will tell you what you can make with it.
That's awesome. So it's called Supercook?
It's
So-
like saved my life.
Nice. I'll check that as well. That seems like a really great website. So if you can just say what ingredients you have and what you can make with that, it's great. So, stocking your pantry. That's sort of the next step. Again, no one's going to be doing that but you. Buy things that won't go bad in bulk. So that's like rice, canned goods, spices, lentils, powdered onion, garlic, things like that. Don't buy things in bulk that are going to be perishable unless you know you're going to eat it. Because like it sucks. You're like, oh man, I bought these cucumbers and I ate one and I've still got 2 left and I just never got around to eating them and now they're rotting in my fridge. That sucks. Or you got that meat that you cooked. Like, I'm going to cook all the chicken for the whole week and I got this big pot of chicken. And then by about the 5th day, you're like, is this chicken still safe to eat? You don't want to do that. That's a waste of time. That's a waste of money. So you can meal prep. You can plan out your meals ahead of time. But be really realistic on what you're actually going to eat. And be limited in the perishable food, like the vegetables and meats that you buy. When you do cook, try to make enough for leftovers. Try to make bulk 2 or 3 meals. And it's actually generally easier to do that because most of the recipes you see online are like, serves 2 to 4. There's not as many single meals as you want. You can always refrigerate or freeze the extra and have it later. Quick meals. There are a lot of meals that you can get at home that are fast and easy and easier than just eating out. I mean, you can take canned food like ramen or tuna fish and just with a little bit of transformation, like you just add some mayo to tuna, maybe like some garlic and salt and pepper, and you've got like a pretty good spread you can put on anything. You can take ramen and you put some, tapatio on it, and it probably tastes delicious. So there's a lot of ways you can spice up things, and ramen takes you about 2 minutes to cook, right? The best thing, my best recommendation is eggs. Eggs can do pretty much anything. Eggs can be dinner, breakfast, lunch, dessert. You mix a little bit of like cocoa powder and sugar into some eggs, and you microwave it for about 2 minutes. You've got a little mug cake. You do the same thing, but instead of sugar and cocoa powder, you add like little chopped up bacon and like cilantro, and you've got like a breakfast frittata. So learning how to use eggs, hard-boiled eggs, you can hard-boil like a dozen of those and have those for a week. It's a great way to have really inexpensive food, and as long as you're not allergic, you're going to save a lot of money. All right, so we're kind of nearing the end of the presentation, and I want to leave you with just a final thought. Is living alone worth it? What do you think the answer is?
No, it's scary.
Yes.
Yeah.
Who are you?
Transitions are tough. It is scary to live on your own. it is kind of difficult because all these things are new. You've suddenly got a bunch more responsibilities, but it's absolutely worth it because you're your own boss, your own man or woman, your own person. You can decide to take a break. You're like, you know what? I'm not going to do my chores right now. I'm just going to relax. You know what? I can't tell you the liberating feeling, the fact that you can walk around your underwear all day and no one's going to tell you what to do or see you. It is bizarrely refreshing to do. And no one's going to tell you, no, you can't buy a gallon of ice cream and eat that for dinner tonight. If you want to do that, you can. You've got the freedom. You may pay for it later. You may be on the toilet for the rest of the night. But it's up to you. Your responsibility. And everything that you have to do is more than made up by that freedom that you have. So, does anybody have any questions?
Oh, I do.
Yeah.
About pets, like I know, like in some apartments, they don't let you have pets.
That's right.
But can't you pay like something so they can let you have pets in your apartment?
So each apartment complex
Like a
is,
dog or-
yeah, each apartment complex is different, and they've got different rules and requirements if you want to have pets. So some apartments will say no pets under any circumstances, and some will be like you can have a snake or a fish, but you can't have anything with fur. And some are like you can't have like a dog or a cat unless you pay an extra fee that'll cover for us having to replace the carpet when he pees on it. You know, each apartment is different. Just talk to your landlord and see what you're doing. And when you're looking for a place, that might be the thing that makes or breaks it. All right. So I just want to let you know that we've got our next group of sessions. Oh, sorry. Did you have another question?
I was wondering about, I'm moving in with some roommates who I know at least a couple will be kind of flaky. How do I talk to them about it? How do I say, you really need to clean up your mess? Or please take care of your own business?
That's great. So when you're dealing with roommates who are difficult, especially roommates that are flaky, it's important to have everything decided ahead of time and preferably in writing. Like I know a group of my friends who all decided to live together, and they had like basically a shame board where they wrote down all the things they did. And if you didn't do it, they'd be put up in there. I'm not saying that you should have something like that, but you should have an agreement where you know what you're doing. And maybe it's something like it's a weird comics. Maybe your friend hates to do the dishes but doesn't mind vacuuming. So maybe you can do all the dishes and she'll do all the vacuuming, and another friend will do all the bathrooms. So find a way that works out. And the other thing to think about is they may be your best friends in the world. They may have saved you when you were drowning as a child. But sometimes they're not the best roommates. So if it doesn't work out, don't be afraid to talk about it and be open with it. It's just important not to be passive aggressive. It's important to be honest with them, clear and polite, and talk about it in terms of what you're feeling and what you can do. Don't go, hey, I hate that you never clean the dishes. It's like, I wanted to, use the bathroom and I noticed that there's dirty clothing over there. What can we do to make that happen better? That generally helps a lot.